say one thing which struck me very significantly over the last week was, without disparaging our neighbors to the north, to see a boil water advisory that does not apply to Union Bay was an amazing experience. Just to say that
Yes.
our water quality and our water plant handled significant turbidity. And I won't say very well. I know our team worked very hard to make sure that that water quality continued and that we didn't have a boil water advisory. But it's a testament to the quality of what we've installed and the quality of the people that are running it. So that would be my opening remark. And then if anybody, unless anybody else has any opening remarks, I'll just move on with the agenda. Susanna, by the way, are you at home these days?
No, I'm not home right now. No.
You're over in Vancouver. I just have your book that I keep forgetting to return. And I wanted to ask you.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move on with the agenda then. Approval of the agenda. Any late items? I'll just leave it over to the group to say, is there anything you'd like to comment on, add to, delete? All good? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Second from Susanna, and all in favor? I will just go around. Susanna? Eve?
Yes.
Ted?
Aye.
Ian? Yes, okay. Sorry, it's been awkward on video to record our votes.
I think Eve is here.
Yes, when Eve did also acknowledge. So adoption of the minutes from the December 3rd COW meeting. Any changes, additions, corrections, whatever that we might need for these minutes? Okay, then can I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Ted?
I'm in favor.
Eve?
In favor.
Susanna?
Aye.
Ian, aye. Okay, so we are now on to the first of the new business items, which would be a water treatment plant office verbal status update and discussion for board input. And I will turn the floor over to our interim administrator, Gary Nason.
Good afternoon, all. Happy New Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year to each of you. Hope your weather has been a little bit better than it has been down in Victoria. It's been interesting to say the least, and I know you guys have had your challenges up there as well. For this first item, I'm actually going to ask Janice to lead this one. Janice and I have had a number of discussions, and she's shared with me some information in regards to proposals or quotes that we've received for an office facility at the water treatment plant, as well as quotations for fencing up around that area. We do not have a recommendation to present at this time. I'm actually going to be in Union Bay. I'm coming up there on Wednesday and Thursday to meet with the fire chief, the public works superintendent, and also staff, and get a tour of a lot of the facilities related to this particular project and others. So we are certainly, I see myself in a position to develop a bit more of a strategy in terms of how to address some of these issues moving forward and to present recommendations. But I'm just going to ask Janice, I've asked her to give you a brief update where we're at, what we've done to this point, and to get any input and answer any questions that you may have. Janice?
So we have been working on trying to secure an office for the water treatment plant for a while. And there was one opportunity with an independent person. They had a mobile unit, and it was presented as an opportunity, and it was quite a good deal. It was about $48,000, but it's not available yet, and it probably won't be available for quite some time. So it's not really a very viable choice. So then we went out and priced at a number of different places. They're very hard to come by. You can't just find an ATCO trailer anymore. Like the trailer that Danny uses for his office was, I think, a $2,000 trailer. It can't be moved. It will fall apart. So that's been part of the problem. So some of the quotes that Danny has received, one is for around $87,000. And then another quote at a different company, it's $96,000. So that is, the specs are the same for both of them. Yeah, that's what they cost. So we weren't even looking at pricing out having one built due to permitting. You know, you'd have to go through quite a different process rather than having a unit pre-built and moved onto a slab. So this was the more efficient way of doing it. Danny did look at, he compared the prices and timelines, and this seemed like the better option. So that's, you're up to date. So basically what we were talking about with the fencing, you guys will notice that the old trailer, that's Danny's office halfway up McLeod, the fence was knocked down. I'm not sure at what point it was knocked down, but he's had issues with people trying to break into the trailer. That's where the computers are. They've put cameras out, a GoPro to try and catch whoever was doing it. They stole the GoPro. That site has to be restored to its natural original situation.
Yep.
And I believe, Ian, you were saying 5 years from when the water treatment agreement was signed, which was 2017. So it's coming. So Danny had priced out getting a fence put back up at that site, and it's over $3,000. So it kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense to put more money into that site.
No.
So we're trying to move forward with an office, and we get an office, we're going to save $1,500 a month on the trailer rental that's serving as a bathroom break kitchen. It's not set up. It's not big enough to be used as an office and storage. And we will only have that till probably May or June. So that's sort of the logic behind the office. Do you have any questions?
I do, but I'll defer. Ted, Eve, do you have a question?
Yeah, in that trailer, did they have a bathroom? I don't even know.
Yes.
I don't remember. So is it like a pump out, or is it a little septic thing there?
No, what they have right now is it has to be pumped out.
Okay.
Eve, was your
No, are you
question?
talking about Danny's old office?
I'm talking about the trailer.
The trailer has a bathroom. That's initially why we got it.
And it's pump out.
Yes.
Okay. And is any just one more question is for the water treatment plant, you want an office for there, right there?
Correct.
Have you since trailers are so expensive, how about a travel trailer, a giant travel? You can get them all day long for 10,000, 15,000.
Yeah, they're just not built to be permanently used. That's the problem.
Yeah, right. So
they're old. They can't withstand the wear and tear.
If you want a permanent site, then it sounds like it's going to be an
It's permanent, yeah. Because the other issue with having an office up there is that it's also used part of it will be used for storage for parts, secure storage, and a workshop.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Ed or Susanna?
Go ahead, Susanna. I'll talk after.
Thank you. I'm just confused here. We're talking really about two trailers, correct? One is on the old property that needs to be moved. One is we're renting already.
Correct.
So we need to be clear about which two we're talking about. So I'm going to talk about the old trailer that needs to be removed anyway from halfway up McLeod,
Mhm.
right? Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So it makes sense to me since it has to be moved anyway, to at least try to move that trailer.
We are doing that.
Okay, you didn't say that. Okay.
Sorry, let's clarify that, Janice. Are you attempting to move Danny's old trailer to the new plant?
Yeah, okay, we can call that the shop, because that's what he refers to it as, the shop.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
he's looked into getting it moved, and again, it has no bathroom, it has no kitchen. It would only serve as a storage and an workshop.
Workshop.
But he's also been told that they're 98% sure it will fall apart. It almost fell apart when it was moved to the site it's at now. So they're still going to try and move it because it's got to be moved anyways. So again, it can be moved up to the water treatment plant, but it still can't be used as an office.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what are we paying for renting the trailer that does have a bathroom and can be used as an office?
$1,500 a month, and it can't be used as an office. It's not big enough to use as an office.
Why? If the trailer can be used as the workshop and storage, well, how big is this $1,500 a month trailer?
Well, it's a travel trailer, so most of it is bedroom and kitchen and bathroom. So we can't make any physical changes to the travel trailer. So it's not set up to put your desk in to use as an office. It has one little kitchen table where they eat their lunch at and have their breaks at. And it's temporary. We can only have it till high season.
So
Ed? Sorry, go ahead, Susanna.
I'm a little bit concerned because there's kind of a number of issues at play. For sure, the staff need an office and a bathroom. There's no question about that. I don't understand why that wasn't initially built in the initial plan.
I agree.
This is a mystery to me. I don't agree with putting more money like fencing into property that we are going to have to vacate. Also, in less than 6 months now, we are transitioning to the CVRD. So would not some of the pressure on workshop, storage, maybe even office be shared with CVRD facilities?
No, because they have to have on site. The water treatment plant operators have to be on site, and it makes sense for the workshop office, to be on site.
Well, I'm still hopeful that the old trailer, at least temporarily, could continue to be used as a workshop and a storage area. This is really, as we all know, we don't have the money for $100,000 expenditure. Do we?
Yeah.
We do?
There's 500,000 in reserve funds for the public works.
And that was that budgeted in our budget that we just passed?
We didn't budget capital.
No.
Just operating.
So we have $500,000 in our capital reserves for water. Okay. Didn't use that for the loan.
Sorry, Eve, I didn't catch that.
In the meeting, I'm in a meeting.
So is
Yeah,
this,
Let's let Ted speak. He's been waiting.
what's happened?
Yes, again, trailers. There seems to be a shortage in the province or whatever for this particular application. The thing is, Alberta has lots of trailers. Oil Patch has lots of trailers. A lot of them aren't being used. A lot of them are being sold, etc. I don't know if you've been in touch with Ritchie Brothers or any of these outfits that sell a lot of this stuff.
Danny has, yes.
I'd like to look into that. Again, I have to agree, we're on a budget. We are going through a transition in the next number of months. It's something that needs to be done, but I don't know if that trailer will make it up the hill in one piece or if it'll be scattered all over as it's moving. I think we should try to move that trailer up first before we make a decision on whether we're going to bring in some other trailer to replace it. Again, an office in a rented travel trailer, I guess that, again, you said isn't going to work because you can't be putting a bunch of holes into it and everything else because it's being rented. I think the first thing is to move that trailer from the old site and see if it can be brought up and set up storage at the plant. Then we turn around and again review whether to go ahead with building an office on site, which eventually will have to be done after we get that trailer moved so we know exactly what's going on. And then if that's the case, go ahead with it. But I think Alberta has trailers. BC doesn't have many, but Alberta does have trailers that I think can be brought out for a heck of a lot less than that amount of money. Anyhow, that's what I'm going to say for now. I think we need to move that trailer off the other property, see if it can be moved.
So I'd like to add to the discussions so far. I think we need to keep our sort of accumulative facts straight, right? The first is that the trailer that we have at the old plant is not adequate for the purposes, whether it makes it or not. It does not have a washroom, and it does not have sufficient space for all of our staff.
Yeah, it's just storage.
It has some storage, sort of shop capability, all those sorts of things. It might mitigate the size of trailer we need, but I don't know if that option has been explored yet. But the other things that we need to understand is that the working conditions inside the plant where people are working now are probably contrary to WCB regulations, and that it is not heated and it is very loud. And so we need to provide a safe working environment for people. We need a washroom. That trailer does not have a washroom. Right. The one that the old trailer at the other plant. The travel trailer does not have enough space. And the last thing I would say is that we need to have an adequate washroom facility for staff comfort, but also for safety. And I believe that making a long-term decision where we have an $18,000 operational outflow every year, we will find that buying a trailer is probably a long-term cost-effective solution, as you know, it'll get paid for within 5 years just by the rental charges that come through. I am in support of doing this. I am also in support of making sure that we've explored all options for adequate used trailers. And, you know, I don't want us to be, it's not our job as the board to say, do this, do that, check this, check that. What we need to say to the staff is that we want to make sure you've explored all reasonable opportunities, including trailers in Alberta, but there's moving costs to bring them out. But I do believe that we need to do something for the employees. And what we should be doing is something, I wouldn't call it the minimum. It would be the minimum for their comfortable working environment and the minimum we need for function, such as how many offices, bathroom, storage, workshop. And if storage can go to CVRD for some of this stuff, maybe that minimizes what we need. So that's what I would say.
I agree.
Can I,
Yes, Susanna, please.
I agree with what you're saying. For sure, we have to do something. I find it hard to believe that between 90,000 to 100,000, would it not be cheaper to build? Have we looked at that? To build a permanent structure.
Janice, what do you know about the research that's been done there?
Yeah, I do know that Danny has spent a fair bit of time looking into it, and it really, there was a big issue with the permitting of putting something on a slab versus actually building something at the site. And that seemed to be why he was leaning towards a ready-made unit that could just be brought in. So
Permit by whom? Sorry. Permitting by whom? What kind of
regional
permitting?
district,
You need building permits.
yeah, building permits.
Okay.
So Danny had looked into that. And so that's why it seemed to, the other way seemed to be more efficient.
Well, and if we look at, how big is that? It's 1,200 square feet or something, isn't it?
Hang on, I can tell
The
you.
trailers? It wasn't
The one
large.
we're looking at buying, the two that we were looking at buying, are they the same size?
Correct.
And it's about 1,200 square feet?
Well, let's let Janice,
Yeah.
320 square feet.
Oh, that's all it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
yeah,
mistake.
1,200, that's
Yeah.
a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Question.
So
Hello.
so I'm just wondering, sorry, Eve, I just want to finish the thought train I was on there. If we look at building costs, it's going to be, given what's going on in this valley, it's going to be 150, 200 bucks a square foot anyways, right? At
Right.
least 200 bucks a square foot, I would guess.
Yeah.
And so now you're at $65,000 or something like that. And you're at a delay. And I would guess that $200 a square foot is actually low.
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to know on that if we could actually do it cheaper, right? You'd think that a prefab arrangement would actually be cheaper than custom built.
You would think so. I'm wondering, have we asked the school district as well?
Yeah.
Like,
Ian
okay.
Ham is our fire chief, and he works directly for the school district, and they've started building their own portables because you can't get them. And also the other issue he did say about the portables that you can buy, they are not well made. Like an ATCO trailer is not well made.
no, I know.
So it doesn't have a huge life to it. So, yeah.
But now we're thinking of buying an ATCO trailer. Am I right?
These aren't ATCO trailers.
Oh,
No.
okay.
When one of the places where the quote came from, the bypass into Courtney,
Yeah.
one of the places that makes them is right there. They're very well made units.
So the other question I had was more along, okay, so this was to be a discussion and inputs from the board back to the staff in terms of what we're thinking. And so I'm guessing that the next steps are that a proposal will be brought forward and a bylaw associated with it. Do we have, Gary, can you fill us in on what that is, the next steps?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this input has been really good for me because when Janice shared these quotes, I just wasn't comfortable that I could see, what the next step may be. Because as most of you have mentioned, all of the issues that certainly were on my list, there's a number of issues here, right? There's procurement issues, there's budget issues potentially, although this would be funded, I guess, from a reserve. There's work safe operational issues. And there's, as Susanna has mentioned, there's the whole issue of the conversion process. And I'm not comfortable at this point in time that we have necessarily explored all the other options. Maybe we have, but the first thing I want to do is get myself up there, view all these, go to the water treatment plant site, see the plant, see what's up there now, see this working trailer, and get a better handle on what the next step may be moving forward. Because it's clearly something that needs to be addressed, notwithstanding conversion. But it's potentially something that I would see raising in the context of that process as early as the 11th. But I got to get a better handle of where we're at in terms of this right now. So definitely what I would see happening is once I can get my head around this and talk to Dan and talk to Janice further and get a better idea of what the work that's been done to date, I'd see us coming back to the board with setting out some options and a recommendation on how to move forward.
And when do you think that would happen?
As soon as possible.
I think it's this board cycle in January, or is it a February?
Oh, it would probably be a February item.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And do we know the timeline for delivery of one of these trailers if we were to go down that route?
I'm sure Danny knows, but I do not.
Because that's part of the decision here is, will we be able to have a new trailer before we need to lose the old trailer?
Yeah,
The rental
meaning
trailer.
the one
The
that's
rental
rented.
trailer, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I see it as being time sensitive. Because one of the things that I'm concerned of, and you folks have identified it, is there is a work safe issue here too, as well, right? So I certainly see it as being time sensitive.
Mhm.
But
Any
this,
further comment from any of the board members on this? I'm in favor of the approach that Gary's recommending in terms of, doing his research, doing the reviews, bringing back options and recommendations as soon as possible.
I have a question.
Eve?
So are you going to explore all possibilities or just possibilities amongst trailers? In other words, building a place rather than just trailers?
Well, I think it's worth talking to Danny about it, Gary, because Danny has investigated that. So, you can get more information from Danny. So just so you know, the plumbing the pipes are already in, the electrical is already in. So a septic would have to be finalized, and he has talked to someone. A septic has to be done either way. So he has got someone ready to do the septic. So other than that, the site is ready, except for foundation, obviously.
My understanding was that we were going to put the outflow, the sewage from that trailer into the sludge tank that gets
No.
extracted. I thought it would go in there because it's going to the sewage plant anyways for
No,
treatment.
it would go into septic.
Oh, I remember the discussion saying it would go into that tank at one point.
Yeah, I don't. I think when the guy pumps it out, he will also pump the trailer out. When he pumps the sludge out, he pumps the trailer out, but I don't recall Danny.
It'd be worth exploring, because if we have something that is being pumped out to go to the sewage treatment plant anyways, why would we need a septic field?
I believe this is what Danny's been talking about. He believes at some point they will, especially when the conversion happens, they will be more agreeable for the sludge to go to the dump.
Okay.
which is $50 versus
That
$1,000.
makes a difference for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
And he
you.
said there has to be a septic field, is what Danny said.
So that increases the cost.
Yeah,
Yep.
septic is hugely expensive, putting in a septic field.
Yeah,
There has to be one anyway, you said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that's
So
at
my
least 50.
question was to Gary Nason, and I haven't heard the answer yet. Are you gonna explore all of the routes, especially building from scratch?
Absolutely. And the question, the first question I'm going to ask Dan is what options have been explored?
And do they even have a square footage requirement, or are they just going with, well, we'll get a trailer and they come at a certain size, so we'll make do? Do they have a plan for how many?
He has a
square
plan.
feet they need?
Yes, yes.
And how many do they need?
How many?
Square feet do they need?
Danny has a plan. He's drawn it out. So he literally, he's drawn it out what the needs are. So,
And you can't say the square feet on that? I can't really read it.
well, I believe because they quoted on 320, it was 320.
Okay, so he's just looking at trailers, basically. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not actually, it's a modular building. I don't think it's a trailer.
Okay, a
It's
modular.
built differently, right?
Mhm. They're better than trailers, modulars. Yeah.
They're
Yeah, they are.
build homes,
Right.
it's the quality of a home.
Okay, thank you.
So that means we're not even looking at used. This is new.
Yes.
Let's leave this to Gary. I think we've
Yeah.
got a set of information. Gary's going to do due diligence on the process and bring back our options and recommendations.
Yep, leave it with us. I'll certainly do that. And this feedback from the board has been good. I've got a better sense in terms of what the options are that you'd like us to look at and the time frame issues. And thanks very much for that feedback.
Can we close this one off?
One thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, I'd like him to add, I think that we should also talk to Daniel Arbor regarding if we go ahead with a structure rather than a trailer, regarding the permits and time that it would take for the regional district to issue permits if we go ahead with a building instead.
All right.
Because there seems to be a holdup in permits with the regional district. And if there's going to be that much of a holdup with permits with the regional district, don't think we have a choice except a trailer or something that's built to be brought in. I think that question should be asked of the regional district. It only took us 4 months to get permits for building the actual water treatment plant. So why would it take so long to get permits to put up a structure?
Can I speak
That's
to
my
that?
query.
Well, let's just ask the question, but go ahead, Susanna. I don't want to
Yeah,
debate it.
No, I don't want to debate it either. I agree with that question needs to be asked, and just I can speak to building because I built a carriage house and the permitting was actually quite fast. I can warn you though, we are under earthquake rules, which are, rightly, we're in an earthquake zone, which are relatively new, which do add to the building costs. In my case, it added significantly because the bottom garage was not earthquake proofed. Now, we're talking about perhaps a new build, so that would not be an issue. I just wanted to say though that the permitting was actually quite fast from my building experience. That was just in this last 6 months.
Okay. Any other final comments or shall we move on?
Move on.
Move on.
All right. Next item, proposed UBID board senior staff strategic planning priorities. Setting session. So basically a strategic planning session is on the agenda to be discussed here, and Gary has been driving this So I'd like to turn it over to him to describe what he is proposing, and then we can figure out if and when we want to do this.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, one of the things that I'd like to suggest to the board that you consider as soon as possible, really, even if conversion wasn't taking place, but particularly in view of the fact that the train has left the station now in terms of the conversion process. But one of the things I'd like to suggest is that we have a kind of a mini little strategic planning priority session sometime as soon as possible in January or early February. There's been a number of things that have been raised since I've been working with you folks. There's a number of issues that we've been talking about in terms of potentially moving forward. Just a few examples: the 2017 subdivision bylaw, updating our capital expenditure charges, which was last done in 2014, developing a 5-year capital expenditure plan, which to my understanding, we don't really have in a formal sense. There's been discussion about adding the B parcels to the tax roll, initiating collection action against, delinquent tolls and taxes and charges, settling ponds for peat sludge, and the boundary of the treatment plant. A number of these issues that I think it would be worthwhile discussing separate from a board meeting and separate from a COW meeting, but in a little mini strategic planning session. I know you folks have had them in the past. I'm not sure when the last one was. There's also a number, when you read the conversion study, as you know probably better than I do, the conversion study make reference to a number of things that it suggested UBID should undertake, again, even if conversion wasn't going to take place. Things like a water master plan, a long-term fire hall and equipment plan, Langley Lake Dam condition assessment and review of the Langley Lake Dam policies and procedures, and a water system inventory. So really what I'm suggesting is we have one of these sessions, maybe book out 2.5 to 3 hours. As soon as we can fit it into everyone's timetable, I would suggest that I don't think it needs to be facilitated by an external consultant or anyone like that. We bring a number of these issues. I would certainly bring these issues that I've mentioned to the table. Other trustees would be welcome to bring any other issues. And we get into a bit of a prioritization session in terms of what things to undertake, in 2021. And it would be maybe a 2.5, 3 hour session. I have no issues with it being an open meeting, open to the public if the public wanted to log in, if it's going to be done via Zoom. But with strategic planning sessions, usually these are sessions where the public is maybe welcome to observe and listen, but it's really a session for the board and for staff. And but again, I have, for transparency reasons, totally comfortable with it being a public kind of a session. And I would recommend that, just in addition to myself, that Janice, Ian, and Danny be in attendance for this discussion, because a number of these issues cross into their areas of expertise. So that's what I'm looking for, really, is there willingness for the board to participate and have one of these sessions, and when could we have it that would fit everyone's timetable?
I'm sure people have comments, so I'll start with Ted.
Well, if this session should happen, I guess we should have it happen before our next board meeting. If that's the case, we should all get together and have that session as soon as possible. That's what I say to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eve?
Is it possible we've already scheduled it next Tuesday? I have a meeting in my book. I must have done that wrong though. We haven't already scheduled this next week, have we? Because I have a meeting scheduled with the board on the 12th. That's not a meeting though, is it? Am I wrong?
I believe that's when we have our CVRD working committee meeting is on the 12th.
That's right.
Oh, I must have accidentally thought that was
Do
me.
we?
Okay. Our board
I-
meeting's on the
I think so.
21st. So if we
I-
want to have it before, that's the week of the 11th, and I'm okay with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or Friday, as long as it's a time I can do. But Monday's not good for me.
Susanna?
I completely agree with this meeting needs to happen. So many of those items, in fact, are budget, they're financial, they have financial impact to the benefit of Union Bay. So I think they're critically important, and I appreciate Gary keeping a running record of all the issues that, like the settling ponds, the boundary of the treatment plant. These are issues and questions that have been raised over the last 6 months that really have not been clearly addressed. So I'm all in favor. I'll switch things around so I can make whatever meeting is set up.
Okay, thank you. I'm all in favor of doing this. The thing that I would emphasize from what Gary said is that the purpose of the meeting is prioritization. And while there's going to be a lot of important things listed, I do not believe we'll have the resources to accomplish them all. And the reason for that is conversion is going to consume a lot of resources. There's going to be a lot of information flow and requirements to make sure that conversion happens smoothly. So the key purpose of that meeting should be for us to prioritize what comes first. And I don't want to, even start that process now. But I do believe that when we're finished with it, we're going to say, okay, there's going to be things that fall off the bottom of the list that have to be left to post conversion and to CVRDs for CVRD to handle. We may be able to leave some initial direction to them as to this is our intent, but we won't necessarily be able to process all of them.
No, I agree. In fact, I see this as going back to the advisory committee, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute, kind of a wish list of what the board, Union Bay board, in its last few remaining months, hopes, what we want to see for the future, for Union Bay and its residents. Several of them, the ones all to do with subdivision, are really timely because, as we know, we have several development applications in the wings. So I feel very strongly that we need to get those items in order and up to date so that we're not, so that we are.
Okay.
Proactive.
Yeah, let's save that for the session, but I appreciate that as input as well. So I think what we need to do is give Gary direction as to when are we available. Is it next week? Gary, when are you thinking we should do this?
Mr. Chairman, I was originally thinking that we would do it in the last week of January, after the board meeting of the 21st. Really, and that was primarily because, looking at my calendar, I'm going to be up there next week on Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully meeting everyone and getting a good lay of the land. And then, there's, we would have to get that board meeting agenda prepared on the 15th and send it out, on the 18th, and then it's the 21st, right? So I was really thinking after the board meeting, that the week of the 25th of January. I don't think it's critical that it happens before the next board meeting, but having said that, If there really is a strong appetite to do it before the next board meeting, what about Friday, the 15th? And I'll just ask Janice, would that be problematic in terms of, I know it's not your regular working day, Janice, but would that be problematic for Dan and for Ian and to get?
Danny normally works Fridays, so not a problem. Ian, it's a bit of a different issue because he has to, juggle his schedule a
Right.
bit. So,
So does he need time to do that?
this
Yeah,
should
that was
probably
my-
be enough time.
That was my other consideration, is enough advance notice to people. But I could certainly do it on the 15th.
So if the 15th is one option, what's another? The week after, the
Yeah.
last week
Just-
of the month then, right?
Yeah.
And so on
Anytime
the,
that final week, the week of January 25th.
yeah, I know for myself, it would be Tuesday afternoon, Thursday or Friday is when I could do it. I could do it Monday morning as well, but that's probably a tough time to do it.
Tuesday, the 26th.
In the afternoon only for me.
Rest of the board, would they be okay? The afternoon of Tuesday, the 26th?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And the 15th, we would do it, what, Friday morning?
Again, morning or afternoon. That's a Friday, though.
Yeah.
That may be a little bit more problematic.
Yeah, I
Tuesday-
think it's harder on the staff, right?
Yeah,
Especially Friday afternoon.
yeah.
I feel more
Never-
comfortable with the Tuesday so that I could give Ian and Dan enough heads up. And Janice, you're okay for the Tuesday, the 26th?
Yeah, I will have a Zoom meeting at 5:30, but we should be done by then.
We'll make sure we're done.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's plan for Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
Maybe 1 to 4.
Sure. 1 to 4 p.m.
Tuesday, the 26th, 1 to 4. And I can
Okay.
set that up.
Hey,
Perfect.
Ted, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Eve?
Yeah,
Okay.
By all means, feel free to email me. I've mentioned a number of things that I would bring forward and put on the table. Feel free to, and I would encourage you to email me with any other items that you would see warranting a discussion in terms of putting on the plate for 2021. Thank you.
I got a question there. The thing that Miss Susanna is bringing up about the subdivision bylaw that we're needing to look at or approve or get going, when are we dealing with that?
At this planning session would be, a prioritization of it into our work.
Oh, I thought we'd already determined that that was a very high priority and that we were going to do it. So we're going to just prioritize it. Okay, at this meeting.
I could give you a counter thought to that, Eve, is that CVRD most likely already has a subdivision bylaw that we have not yet looked at, right? And that might be something that we do instead, right? Which is to say, do we need to do subdivision bylaw work, or do we already are we moving into one that suits our purpose?
Well, on
And
that.
I don't want to debate that. I'm just saying, hey,
That makes-
there's
that makes
contrary,
sense.
yeah, there's
On
contrary
that,
positions on that.
Okay.
So I do want to add to that, please. That would be legwork that I would hope that Gary would do prior to this meeting. We really are running out of time, which is look at what the CVRD subdivision bylaw is. Like, it feels to me like this was brought up in November and it's now January, and now we're talking the end of January. I just would like to
But
So-
not only are we're just talking about prioritizing it, not
I know.
actually doing it.
I know,
So that's
so-
the part I'm confused about.
Well, certainly it would be my intention to, the first post-conversion working group meeting is next Monday, I believe, the 11th. And I certainly want to raise it in the context of that working group and get a sense of what they have in place. I think we're pretty ready to go on it in the sense that we have a bylaw in place and we have the legal opinion from Peter Johnson back in 2017, I guess it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there would be a cost to amending that bylaw. And the first thing that I would want to do is just raise it in the context of the working group, because you've raised some valid points about what the CVRD may have in place. And, here we are spending a bunch of money in updating a bylaw that would be basically subsumed by a CVRD subdivision bylaw down the road. But I do get the point that with, impending developments on the road, and Union Bay Estates and Upper Island developments, it does concern me that we have a bylaw, a subdivision bylaw that, our own lawyer has indicated requires some fairly robust changes. So I would see it as potentially quite high on the priority list, depending on the CRD's take on this and what I managed to find out through that conversion working group. But again, I'm not necessarily saying we prioritize it and then forget about it. It's, the whole issue is there's a number of things that need to be done and a fairly limited amount of time to do them and some limited resources.
Could somebody remind me of what this January 11th or 12th meeting is? I'm sorry.
CVRD.
But there are several CVRD meetings. There's which CVRD? Is it the Conversion Advisory Committee meeting or is
Yes.
it the?
Yeah, that's it.
It's the conversion working group, 3 to 4 p.m. on Monday, January the 11th.
Could someone resend that out, please, to me? Because for some reason I don't have it, and I apologize for that.
That's not for me or Ted or who is, that's not for us, right?
It will be for the representatives, yeah.
But I'm
So
on
not-
that, am I not?
Not me. Okay.
Sorry, it was Tuesday, the 12th, right? Or is it Monday, the 11th?
I have it in my calendar, Monday, January the 11th.
I wrote it down on the Tuesday, but I still don't remember if this is a meeting for me or just you, Ian, and Susanna.
Could we get
James Warren.
clarification on that?
James Warren sent out James Warren's staff sent out the invite, the Zoom invite, just before Christmas Day, I think.
I remember seeing it.
And I don't remember seeing it, which is why I didn't know about it. So maybe we could get,
Okay, I can sort that out.
thank you. Maybe it just wasn't sent to me. Am I on that committee still, Ian?
There's nothing has changed on that.
Okay.
We're discussing committee membership next, right?
Okay.
Just to make sure that we're confirming things the way we all want it. So let's move to that and then we can confirm it up. Or lost my video. Is that good then? Can we move on from this item on the strategic planning session and now we can talk about where are we next here? CVRD conversion process. Yes, unfinished business. UBID CVRD conversion process, verbal status report to be given. I think we just started that process. And then just to confirm which trustees are representing us on that board.
Well,
Gary, do you want to start?
Sure.
How do you want to do
Sure.
this?
Three things that really I just wanted to bring the board up to speed on the conversion process. Obviously, we've had Christmas and New Year's in between. But three things really I just want to bring to your attention. The first one we've talked about, the meeting of the conversion working group. As I say, I have it in my calendar for January the 11th, 3 to 4 p.m. I will, Trustee Kelcher, I'll confirm with James Warren that that is in fact the day and time. And who did he send that out to? So we'll sort that out. Second thing I want to just advise you of in terms of the conversion process is you'll see on later on in the agenda moving into in camera to discuss a couple of applications that we've received from members of the public to sit on that working group. There has been some discussion by the board, I understand, about potentially adding a member of the public or two to the working group. So that I would recommend be discussed in camera. But one thing I think we just need to confirm here is from the board's perspective, in terms of board members, my understanding is that certainly the chair is on this working group, and we just need to confirm, are there going to be, or is there another trustee who is representing the board that is on the working group, so I can advise James Warren. He's asked me to confirm once we've made these confirmation decisions.
So if I can start here, because I've had some discussions around this. So the committee as it stands now has 2 members of our board, which is myself and Susanna on it. And then, you know, up until now, that board has consisted of, I guess, is there 3 members from CBRD? Yeah, Dan Arbor, James Warren, and why am I forgetting the third name?
The electoral director?
Well, that's Dan Arbor.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, there's one more. It's just eluding me.
It's
and then, you're making the same faces as I am, Susanna. Yeah. Trying to remember a name. And then we had Urban Systems on it, and Urban Systems, their work is concluded, and so they'll no longer be on it. And then, you know, I think, you know, from a CBRD perspective, they were presuming that the group would consist of UBID and CBRD, and we raised the issue of perhaps having a landowner also on that committee. And I think as a board, we said that's a good idea. And so one of the thoughts that I had, and I'd love just to float this out there, and I don't want there to be any, you know, there's nothing here that says somebody's wanted, somebody's not wanted, right? This is about just a thought in that, you know, we kind of have 3 main parts of our improvement district, where we've got the North Craig Derrick subdivision, we have Union Bay proper, and we have the south part of our group. And I wanted to put it on the table to say, is there any merit to the idea of representing all 3? Is there anything that comes that's much different about the 3 of them, or does it matter that it doesn't matter, we just can constitute this from people no matter where they live? And what started that for me was mostly trying to figure out how to represent central, the central component, the historical center of Union Bay a little better. Because as of right now, I don't believe we have anybody representing them. So that's what I was thinking, and I don't want to say, hey, you know, that means Susanna's out or Ian's out. You know, I just wanted to put it out there as a concept for discussion and see if it matters.
Go
Ted,
ahead.
I'll start with Ted. I'm going left to right on my screen.
Well, I looked at 2 folks that put their names forward, and I have a problem with one because
we don't want to talk about this now.
No, what I'm saying is we have to choose one of these individuals, and we can discuss that later.
We're just talking about this concept of geographical representation.
I don't think it really makes much difference.
Okay.
Geographically, myself, we're all part of the Union Bay Improvement District at this time.
Okay.
Whether we're at the south end or at the north end or anywhere in between.
Okay. Eve?
Well, I hadn't thought of that before, but it's kind of interesting. I feel like Union Bay is, I don't feel exactly like Ted at all. I feel like we're three separate entities, actually. The south where I live, most of the people here know nothing about. I have had so many discussions with people about what our parcel taxes are for, that we even have a new water treatment plant, because they just don't know. And I think that the northern, I'm just maybe my perception, the Craig Derrick area, they kind of feel like they wish they were part of Courtney. I don't know, but anyway. So I think it's a valid point you have, but unfortunately there is no one on this board that represents Central Union Bay. But we could solve that with another way. But anyway, I think it's an interesting point that you make. I don't want to kick anyone else off. You're talking about still only 2 board members being on this committee, right, Ian?
I think that's what we're talking about, but I wouldn't consider that set in stone. Gary, do you think it's set in stone?
No, not necessarily. The reason that I just like a little bit better clarification on it is when I had my discussion with James, he was asking me to get back to him at some point in time in terms of moving forward now on the conversion process and the working group and the monthly meetings. Who does UBID consider to be their representatives on the working group?
Okay.
So I just want to confirm, is it yourself, Mr. Chair, and one additional trustee, and who that may be? And is there going to be 1 or 2 members of the public? So I can get back to him.
Okay. Susanna, with respect to this idea of geographic representation, what's your view?
I think I've already expressed that, but I'll do it publicly. I think creating regions and regional representation just adds to the already divisive tone that has been far too long in our community. That's my personal opinion. We all pay the same parcel taxes, the same water tolls. We're paying for the same one water treatment plant. We are all one community. That some people are ill-informed is not the issue. And it may well be that the landowner that is chosen to be on the board does come from an area not currently represented. So I just think it adds to the divisiveness, honestly. I very much want to stay on the board. To be honest, it has been a pleasure to work with a functional group of people on some very important issues. And that has not been my experience on the board, unfortunately, for the previous years. So I'm very much not going to willingly step down. That's just my very personal feeling.
Okay, well, I appreciate that too. From my perspective, and I'm not disagreeing to be disagreeable, I actually feel that bringing somebody from each area is more inclusive than divisive. It tries to pull people together.
Agreed.
But that's just an opinion, and I have no facts to back that up. I just wanted to have that discussion. And, I guess there's 2, if we were to say, hey, we want to do this, and what I think we really said is, hey, Eve and I kind of think, yeah, that's a neat idea. And Ted and Susanna are kind of going, not necessary. There are other ways of getting there, right? I don't think we have to say the chair sits on this committee. Like we could discuss that, whether, we would have 2 trustees other than the chair represented on this committee as well. And at one point in time, we did do that. It was Susanna and Rick Bitton that were representing UBID on that committee, and I didn't. So that's kind of just how I wanted to kick this debate off, is to, did we want to do something a little bit more structured, or do we just want to leave it to, you know, sort of at large, if you will? Here's another question. Excuse me, Ted and Eve, you are not on this committee. Do you have a desire to be on this committee?
Yes, I have a desire to be on this committee.
Yes, I do. I would like to, you know, but I don't want to kick anybody off to get there.
I won't go. You'll have
There
to,
you go.
you'll have to yank me out. But absolutely, you're right. I'd forgotten Rick was on the board. There was 3 of us. I very much would like Ian, I would want our chair to continue to be on the board. So having another trustee and a landowner is, the landowner was a suggestion, if I remember correctly, a joint suggestion at our last meeting, Ian, which was an idea presented and agreed between CVRD and the other party that's been on these meetings is the provincial government.
Yeah, I forgot them, and they remain on it. Yes,
and they remain on it. So by all means, if Eve or Ted wish to join, I'm fully support that, as well as the landowner that we will discuss later. So I had forgotten about there being both Rick and I on there. So absolutely, I'm in favor. Just don't try to make me leave.
Never, we will never do that. We'll never do that.
Oh, well, you did actually, but that's okay.
As just a thought, I think we can put too many people on this committee too.
Right.
And you know, right now, if CVRD has 3 on it, you know, it feels balanced for us to have 3, although I could make a case for 4, saying it's about us.
Right.
So, but you know, you also, the more people you put on a committee, you know, there's almost an inverse relationship to effectiveness, right?
Well, Ian, if I could just interrupt, when you're saying 3 on CVRD, 2 of them are staff. So Janice, for example, or Gary.
Well, we have 4 already. You're right.
Yeah.
Because Gary is also on this committee.
Yeah. But they are important. However, since this is such a, well, anyway.
So we're going to have 4 members to their 3 already. If we don't, you know, if we were to add 1, if we were to go as we had currently planned, which is 2 trustees and a member of the public. And then Gary would be a part of it, right? So my sense would be that adding a 5th would be too much.
That's pretty unwieldy, yeah. Because we forgot the government is there as well.
Yeah.
It's already.
You will be adding the member, so you're dropping the idea of the member of the public then?
Well, what I was saying is if we have Gary, Ian, Susanna right now, and we add a member of the public, we have 4. So adding a 3rd trustee would be 5.
Right, okay.
And that feels a little unwieldy to me, but I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on that too. It's almost like we almost have to have the whole board there.
Yeah, I agree that too many is ineffective,
Yeah. So I guess, you know, here's our options. If we were to agree that we're going to have 2 trustees on it, is that we have Ian and Susanna, Ian and somebody else, or 2 trustees and not Ian. And I think they're all workable. It's, you know, and we have Gary there as well, right? But I'd like to, you know, and you know, and Susanna, I need to say this again. I'm not doing this for any reason, for anything you've done. I've valued your inputs there, and you do a great job there. This is not about you, right? It's more about this geographic thing for me, and I, you know, I'd be willing to drop that just to say, hey, I don't want to cause upset just because of a design point, if you will. So please don't take this personally, this discussion.
Personally, I don't think it would be right not for you to be on it, Ian, because you're the chair and you have to continue the chair, so you need to know what's going on in this committee. So, you know, I'm willing to just say, forget it. I don't have to be on it. You said, would I like to? And yeah, I would like to, but you know, it doesn't look feasible.
Yeah. And Ted, you would only be on it short term, right? Unless you turned into a member of the public, but you know, we'd already have one of those on the committee.
Well, I've been I guess a member and lived here 53 years. I've seen all of this going on for many, many years. My feeling is that you're doing the best job you can under these circumstances. Susanna, the same for her. She's brought a lot of things forward that need to be addressed. I wouldn't mind being on it and to be able to support you and Susanna as well to try to get the smoothest transition we can and to get the things that everybody in Union Bay wants to have happen.
If we were to say that we could only have 2 trustees on it, how would you go about that?
Well, is that necessary?
Well, I think we
Where
said
did that ruling happen?
what we're saying is if we put 3 on, we would either have an unwieldy number or we would have to leave the member of the public out.
Well, I don't think I can't see an unwieldy number because I think we're all on the same page. We all want the best we can possibly have for Union Bay. So I think we're all on the same page here.
I'm just thinking about, we covered in the meetings that we did have, which was about counting the ministry, counting all the CVRD staff, counting the 3 of us, because Rick was on there too, and the staff, which was Janice. It was a very large group. And
I wasn't officially on when Rick was, sorry to interrupt, but I wasn't officially on when Rick was on. He took my place. Like it went from.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Right.
attended some meetings,
Right,
I
okay.
think because somebody else couldn't attend or something like that.
At any rate, my point still stands, which is as large a group it was, and it was, we did manage to get a lot of work done and get it done in a very expedient, efficient manner because people were prepared. They only spoke about what they needed to speak about. I mean, I didn't find it unwieldy at all. And again, we're forgetting in terms of the geographic concern that the landowner that we may appoint, in fact, may well be from a geographic area that is not currently represented. So.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
And we can debate it, discuss it. But I move that the representation from the UBID board on the conversion working committee remain unchanged and that the membership be, or the appointees be myself and Susanna. Just for status quo.
I'll second.
Does anybody, and we can vote for or against, so we can have just any further discussion on it, but I just wanted to try to, it's a trial balloon closure.
No further discussion.
Ted, do you, I know I'm excluding you, and Eve, I know I'm excluding you doing that. I'm just.
No, I don't consider it an exclusion. My feeling is that you and Susanna represent the rest of us as well. And I stand behind both of you in these discussions. How's that?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eve, anything further?
Yeah, I'm ready to vote if we have to
Okay.
vote on it.
Susanna?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor? Ted?
I'm in favor.
Okay, Eve,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Ian, aye. Okay, so we will remain unchanged and we'll discuss the member of the public in the in-camera portion. And nothing else there, right? Okay, so item B on unfinished business, Upper Island Developments rezoning application to the CVRD. Update from Gary.
Mr. Chairman, thanks very much. I'll be very brief on this one. You'll remember that I guess it was the beginning of December. I brought a report with two land development referral applications for comment from UBID. One was from Upper Island Developments, the other was from Union Bay Estates. And with respect to the Upper Island Developments, we didn't have a report or some comments from our engineering consultant. He felt at the time, a couple of reasons. He had a lot of other issues on his plate and was only able to provide a report on Union Bay Estates. But the other reason was he felt he didn't have sufficient updated information on the details of the rezoning application for Upper Island Developments. I talked to him before Christmas. He assured me that he was in a position now to obtain those materials from the Upper Island Developments consultant. And he's working on a short report similar to what he did for Union Bay Estates. And I am projecting to have this on the board meeting agenda for discussion on the 21st. And I should have those comments from him. I'm going to check in with him tomorrow just to ensure that he's on track. And I have notified the CVRD that comments are coming. They seem fine with that. I think their intention is to bring a rezoning bylaw forward in the first quarter of this year and refer it to a public hearing. So their planner's been advised and he's comfortable with that time frame. So I'm going to be proposing to bring something forward on January 21st. It'll be the same rezoning application, but it'll have a companion report from our engineering consultant. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, comments, Ted?
No, that's fine. That sounds like it's coming along.
Eve?
No, thanks.
Okay, Susanna?
Nope, that's great. And I really appreciate, Gary, the thoroughness with regards to these subdivision applications. I really do. Thank you.
Okay, let's close that one then and move on to item 5C, which is terms of reference for UBID board standing and select committees. And once again, over to Gary, because he is the author of the pages that are in your package. There's a 4-page terms of reference that are included in the package.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You've seen this before. This was in the agenda package for December, I believe, but we didn't get to it with other priorities on the agenda. And this is something you asked for, I think, in the fall, and Janice asked me to put something together. You know, you already have at this point in time in your meetings policy and in the Local Government Act, there's regulations and stipulations with respect to standing and select committees. But I think there was a desire, I was told, to perhaps get something a little bit more formal, just in terms of reference for standing and select committees. First thing I'm going to say is that maybe events have overtaken this a little bit in the sense that there's been a vote to proceed with conversion, and there may not be a UBID in the second half of this year. So to what extent are we going to need terms of reference for standing and select committees, particularly standing committees, fire and public works, given the, what's potentially going to happen with conversion. Select committees, that's a different matter perhaps, because these are more one-shot deals, ad hoc special projects. Hey, establish a little committee to work on this particular project and bring a report back to the board. But what I've done is I've created some terms of reference, I'm not going to go through them line by line, but there's a few new things that I put in here, and they're just suggestions on my part for you to consider. This is not, I don't consider this to be particularly time sensitive, that we have to get direction on all of this tonight. But it's our first time to sort of talk about it. I'll just hit the real brief highlights of what I've prepared. I'm making the suggestion that for standing and select committees, and again, keep in mind my previous remarks on, on standing committees, and are in fact we're going to have them. But I'm suggesting that in terms of a composition, they have only a maximum of 5 members, including the chair, a second member of the board, up to 3 members of the public, and then a member of staff who would be not a member of the committee, but would be a liaison to that particular committee. Think a select committee for the acquisition of a fire apparatus, for example. What I'm suggesting, it have the chair on it, a second member of the board, up to 3 members of the public, and the liaison would be the fire chief. In section 4, I'm making the suggestion that in terms of reporting protocol, and this is where there wasn't a lot of direction in the Local Government Act or in your meetings policy on this, but I'm saying in terms of reporting protocol, these committees need to be established formally by the board and approved by the board, and direct. In other words, trustees or members of the public just can't unilaterally go and establish one of these committees without formal approval from the board, and directions, direct approaches to UBID staff or other external agencies by members of the committee should go through the chair of the committee or through the acting administrator. In number 5, I'm making the suggestion that standing committees, if we in fact are going to continue to have them, be held a minimum of once per quarter. I'm suggesting January, April, July, and October on dates approved by the board. In terms of select committees, because these are one-shot ad hoc committees which have a shorter life, I'm suggesting that meetings be held as determined initially by the board and then as delegated by the committee chair. Agendas, I always suggest that it's good to have an agenda for standing and select committees, and that the agendas be prepared, similar kind of format to what you're doing now, and be available to members of the standing and select committees 5 days prior. And then finally, number 10, I'm suggesting that all meetings of standing and select committees be open to the public, except where the committee is going to deal with, an in-camera matter. And then, your usual procedures and policies with respect to conflict of interest and in-camera personal information would apply to the standing and select committee. So this is really just for your consideration. If it's to be adopted, it would form another kind of a policy document for you, just to add a little bit more robustness in terms of what you have in place for standing and select committees. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions?
You're muted.
I am sorry, I'm talking and I am muted. I didn't want to make water drinking noises. Ted, any comments or?
No, there's no comments regarding what's been said here. My feeling is, regarding the standing committee that I am for being with in the fire department, a lot of the legwork and a lot of everything has already been done by the fire chief and by one other member of the public who's very knowledgeable. And my part is really very simple. They've done pretty well all the footwork that's necessary. Is that?
Thank you. Eve?
I'm not sure. The terms of reference are great. And that's, I think they're quite comprehensive. I'm just not sure whether UBID is going to have the standing fire and water committee.
I think that's a valid point.
Is it? Thank you.
Susanna?
Yeah, I agree with what, first of all, thank you. I do appreciate the explicitness of the description of the two committees and how they are different. I also think it may be a moot point to have a standing committee. A select committee has already been put in place for the fire, if I'm correct. And we did appoint one trustee who is now gone for the Public Works Standing Committee. I don't know whether we need to fill that role just as sort of almost a formality. But I think right now, on top of how quickly things are moving along, that it's that this is something that belonged to Union Bay in the past, and it may not be a workable way forward having.
Yep. I have a couple just technical comments on the document. One would be in section 3, the maximum of 5 members, and then the bullet points list up to 6. So there's, just some clarity that might, just in wording as to, I understand that it says up to 3 members of the public. So maybe some clarification as to how that might work. But I approve it in principle. And then in number 6, it discusses the notices of meetings for standing committees, but not for select committees. And so perhaps there's something that is needed there, just to say, for example, select committee notices of select committee meetings must be posted a minimum of 7 days in advance or something like that. But with those 2 changes, I would be first off in favor of a motion which would approve adopting these as a policy of UBID. And then the second thing that I would propose as a motion is that we suspend all standing committees pending conversion.
So move. I would
Yes.
second.
Yeah,
that.
so we can talk about those too. And Ted, for clarification, the committee that is going on that you're a part of would be referred to as a select committee because it's for a specific purpose for the fire engine.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that committee would be our only open committee at the time, or active committee at present.
That's correct.
So shall we, make a motion first off to adopt these with, just with whatever clarification that Gary can add to number 3 and number 6 with respect to those 2 points, and we can, and then confirm that at the board meeting when we vote. So the motion would be to adopt these terms of reference with appropriate adjustments to section 3 and 6. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion on it, or shall we just vote?
Let's vote.
Ted?
I'm in favor.
Eve?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Ian? Aye. And then second motion would be motion to suspend currently active standing committees pending conversion to CVRD and appropriate decisions made by that body.
Second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, votes then. Ted?
Favor.
Eve?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Ian? Aye. Okay.
Woohoo!
Through that. Okay, so that is largely the public portion. We need to cease recording, have a motion to go in camera and cease recording, and then we'll come back to the public portion and rise and report from the results of our in-camera session. So can I have a motion to adjourn to in-camera?
Motion made.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, we'll just do raise of hands and we'll show it on the video.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Gary wants to say something.
Gary, you're
Muted.
muted. You're muted.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, there was one item under the conversion status update. The matter of the going down to three trustees,
Oh, yes, we missed one, didn't we?
the election.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be warranted that the board be brought up to speed where we're at on that and have a motion.
Yes, we should do that. Thank you for catching me. So we have a bit of a dilemma with respect to board composition coming up. It starts with the resignation of Trustee France so that we have an open position, which should address, or rightly should be addressed with a by-election. And then in April, Trustee Haraldson's term expires, which would then rightly be addressed by an election. Yet with conversion, the life expectancy of UBID is approximately 2 months beyond that, right? Into July 1st. And so it seems like a unnecessary expense to the landowners for us to spend $6,000 on an election for 2 months. So I approached the ministry and said, what are our options? Can we just, can we make a motion to not hold an election? And the answer to that was no, we can't do that. And the suggestion that was made by the ministry was that we alter our letters patent effective our next AGM to reduce the required number of directors to 3. And that would negate the need for an election because we would have a slate of 3 and we would not have quorum issues by just not having an election, right? So a quorum would then be 2. So that is the that is the background. And then I can have let's just open up for discussion. I have a motion written up that I can read to you once I go find it. But I'd love to hear from Ted, Eve, Susanna. Ted, you can start with it and what your thoughts are on the approach of amending letters patent to 3 directors.
Okay, instead of, and I'm going to say, Mr. Chair, instead of going through all of this letters patent and everything else, with 2 months to go from April to July, if I stayed on 2 more months, would that alleviate the problem?
I think we run into the same issue, which is by our letters patent, your term has expired and it would require some government motion or some authorization from the ministry to extend your term. And when I'd gone to them about those types of actions, this was their proposal. They have to, they're doing some work for orders in cabinet anyways for conversion. Like there's a whole process they have to go through, which involves the letters patent. So making this small or this change at that time is a very small incremental piece of work to be added into it. It just, we need to make our decision quickly so they can get the process moving.
Okay.
It's probably the simplest way to do it is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, it's whatever works, and I just don't want to see the improvement district throw away money for another election when it's like 2 months, and then it could be the end of that point. Yeah. It seems like a heck of a waste of money.
Hence the reason to do this. So, Eve, any comments?
No, that letters patent change sounds like a great idea.
Susanna?
Yeah, I agree. The letters patent idea, if that's coming from the ministry, then that certainly is the way to go. I'm just wondering, we haven't talked about though the bylaw issue. Are we not expected to still have a bylaw, or did we not get permission to not have bylaw? Sorry, by-election.
It's, I think we're okay with scheduling I forget what our letters, or sorry, our election policy says about bylaws and how quickly we need to hold them.
By-elections, I think
Yeah.
it's 60 days. Yeah.
That's our policy. We could vote to amend or suspend that by-election component, I believe.
I was under the understanding, Chair, that you had cleared that the ministry said it would be okay that we not hold a by-election.
Actually, I didn't speak, that I probably spoke too quickly on that, or summarized it too far. I don't think I actually spoke about the by-election. I spoke about Trustee Haraldson's term.
Right, yeah.
And that was the decision on that. So point taken with respect to our election policy. Maybe I'd ask Gary to say, what would your advice be on that? If seeing that we're probably approaching the 60 days, we should make some motion that says we will alter that on a one-time basis.
Well, yeah, I mean, in effect, what the ministry is doing is putting an order in council forward to cabinet to basically dissolve Union Bay. And an order in council would supersede any policy that we would have about requiring to have an election. They're aware of that policy, but it would trump our policy. So any motion, I would think, that should be communicated to the ministry, if that's if the board is comfortable with that, would be essentially saying that, look, we concur with going down to 3 trustees upon the expiration of council or of Trustee Haraldson's term, that we're not going to hold a by-election to fill Trustee France's vacancy, and we consent to only having 3 trustees as post-April, and that would be sort of concurrent with the AGM. But we should also include, I would think, in any motion that, or something, words to the effect that notwithstanding our elections policy, we can consent or agree with this approach that's recommended by the ministry, which would be enacted through an order in council, executive order, which would supersede our policy.
So in other words, we would not need to modify the policy. We would
No.
just say notwithstanding.
No, notwithstanding that policy, in view of these circumstances, which would be outlined in the letter to the ministry. And this is an open meeting. We're being transparent about it, but basically the rule is that any municipal council, regional district board, improvement district board can circumvent its own policies, and certainly what the ministry is proposing would trump our policy. But there should be a recognition that notwithstanding the requirement in our policy, because of this circumstances, this is the way we would consent to going.
Okay, thoughts from other trustees? Does that satisfy, Susanna, was you who raised the issue, right? Does that satisfy what you were thinking?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does, yeah. I hope Gary can write it up for us.
Gary, do you want to propose a motion for us?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, I can, I'll just propose the motion right now. It's basically that, in view of the resignation of Trustee France and the ongoing conversion process, which would contemplate dissolution of UBID, as early as July 1st. The board concurs with not holding a by-election and notwithstanding our policy on elections, the board concurs with not holding a by-election to fill trustee France's vacancy, and would consent to having only 3 trustees post the expiration of trustee Harrelson's term, and that that we consent that only 3 trustees are required at the end of April, and that this would be something that would be enacted at the AGM.
Right, and I think the only modification Catherine would ask us to make is if, instead of at the end of April, was effective April 22nd, the date of our AGM.
Right. Because I think that Catherine, if I'm reading her emails correctly, what she's trying to do is get this executive order, order in council to cabinet before our AGM and before the expiration of trustee Harrelson's term. So this would be an AGM item. It would be on the AGM.
Right. And so what Catherine wants us to do is vote on the motion as presented by Gary. We will communicate it to her that we approved it in our COW meeting and that she will want to see, have communication of the form, and she will work on that basis. And then we will communicate to her after our board meeting that the motion has been formally approved, and that will finalize things for her.
So I'll second Gary's motion, the one he just read out.
Well, I think one of us has to move that. So I will move.
Oh, sorry.
So moved. Susanna seconds. Any further discussion on this one?
Oh, I think that's great.
Mr.
Yep.
Chair, I'll, of course, in the draft minutes, I'll prepare the motion and
Right.
it would be ratified. It would be ratified or subject to ratification on the 21st.
Fantastic.
Great.
Okay, so all in favor? Ted?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Eve?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Ian? Aye. Okay, thank you for pointing that out, Gary. And thank you for phrasing the motion. All right, so now we need a motion to temporarily go in camera.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so Janice, can you just stop on? So we are back from our in-camera and we reconvene our public portion of this meeting, and we would like to rise and report from our discussion in the form of a motion. The motion is that the board appoints Carol Molstad as the public representative on the CVRD Conversion Advisory Working Committee. Second?
Second.
second.
Okay.
Sorry, Marie.
Eve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that, let the record show that all trustees voted in favor of this appointment. All right. So I believe that that is the end of our agenda. Thank you, everybody, for some great work today. And I would like a motion to adjourn.
Can we
Oh,
just,
sorry, we have something from,
Just a couple of housekeeping items, following up, I guess, from this last motion. I will phone, from my end, I will phone Mr. Warren tomorrow to confirm the day and the time for the working group meeting, which I understand is Monday, 3 to 4, but I'll ensure that I advise him to send out the link to Susanna, yourself, and to Carol Molstad. And Mr. Chair, the usual process that I often think works best is if perhaps you would give Carol and the other applicant a call and just advise them of their appointment. And in Carol's case, advise her that more to follow. She's going to get an invite to the working group meeting on Monday.
Fantastic. I will do so.
Thank you.
All right. Any other items before we
Just-
close?
Just a final thought about the working group. I know that there are times where not everyone can attend. I would like to propose, is it possible to have an, what's it called? If I were unable to attend, for example, that Eve or Ted could, like an alternate. Is that just complicating things, or I just really want to acknowledge Eve and Ted's interest in being on the committee.
Gary, what do you
Would
think?
that not be,
I'll talk to James about it.
okay,
I don't see a problem.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
a great idea. Talk to James and see how that works for them.
yeah. Thank you.
Good idea. Okay, any other final comments? All right, can we have a motion to adjourn then?
I so move.
All in favor?
In favor.
Yes,
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody, and we'll see
you.
some of you on Tuesday,
Happy New
or Monday,
Year.
I guess it is, and we'll see the
Happy
rest
New
of you
Year.
the week after.
Happy New Year.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.